So how do you paint that? When your floor is 19 feet below. Sure, you can get on the plank. And that'll make you reach till about there. But what about this? Well, I'm going to show you one way you can do it. You may not think this is sophisticated, but it works. Get yourself a headlamp too. You're looking at a 4-inch medium stiff Purdy brush. This retails for about $30. But if you're a painter, you get a big $7 off. How's that? So let me show you. Load up your brush. Why do you want to use a 4-inch brush? Why do you want to do that? Because it holds a lot of paint. Bring the paint 10 inches below, back and forth. Now your bristles are wet. Hold your breath. And let's cut a straight line 6 feet away. Don't talk. If you do, talk like a ventriloquist. Don't move your lips. What do you think? Somebody will give it a thumbs down. Somebody will find the time to hit that thumbs down button. But I forgive you. I'll assume that you meant it to be a thumbs up and you just made a mistake. That's all. Folks, if you can do it 10 inches away, you can do it 6 feet away. What's 6 times 12? 72. Oh, Spencer, you're amazing. Look at you. Can you actually wiggle it like Aubrey says from the UK? Yeah, you just have to wiggle it just a little bit. Just wiggle it in there. Okay, wiggle it. Now, I don't have to do this extension over there from the pole. I could get on my scaffold, but I did it just to show you that you can do this. Like Sia from CJ and Drill says it. Let's bring you up close. What do you think? Remember, we don't want to break our neck. Take note of the masking of the staircase, please. Let's get you some light to be fair to you. Let me bring you up close with my sophisticated camera. If you like the video, click on like, subscribe. And if you're looking for an autographed paintbrush with Spencer Colgan's name on it, please put a comment in the section below so that I know you want your paintbrush autographed by yours truly after watching this video. See you on the next video. I want to paint this wall, and it's at least 18 feet. But some of you have walls that are higher, right? But what makes this unique is that it's in a stairwell. So ideally, you're going to have 2 people painting the wall. That's the secret of doing this if you're a do-it-yourselfer. It's the secret to doing it right. Why do I say that? You need to keep your columns wet. What I mean by that is, when I take this wet roller and I roll down, that's a column. It's a 9-inch column of paint. Here would be the error. Take into account the lighting coming into the room. If you have a window on this wall, you must be perfect. I don't. Plus I have texture. But if you don't do this properly and you have a window, you will see roller marks all over it. So having said that, here's the theory about doing this properly. Ideally, you want to take this roller and roll it all the way down to the step. But we can't do that, right? This would hit the ceiling. So, if you're a new painter, you would have someone down on the staircase taking up where you can't reach, the point beyond which you can't reach. And so if you go all the way down, where you stop, the next painter takes his or her roller and continues in the same pattern, with the same pressure, with the same amount of paint. Ideally, that's the way it's supposed to be. Do you know what I mean? The same amount of paint on the roller, because otherwise it's like artistry. You're going to say, this looks different than above. It's a subtlety, you probably won't notice, but when people paint different walls, Joe does this, Bobby does this, say this wall looks different. It's because two different people did it. So with that in mind, the person down there has to be familiar with how you're rolling the wall. I'm going to be the only one doing this because I have all that knowledge in mind. I'm sharing it with you. So, I know that I'm going to make a couple of columns and I'm going to go down there and continue those columns because they can't dry while I finish the rest of this 7-foot wall. They can't dry, or else my customer's going to see the lap mark. Once this roller stops, the paint starts to dry. Once you go over it, you're going to see a holiday. It'll be subtle, but you'll see it. Why see it? Learn how to do it right, and we'll get the job done beautifully. First thing we're going to do is roll the wall horizontally at the top. And that's because we want a stipple finish. Because we're rolling it, we want our roller to give the roller stipple as close to the top as we can get. We don't want to brush that. We already brushed it. But now, we're not so much putting paint on the top as we are stipple. And that's the reason for me putting this third coat of paint at the top. It's to make the top stippled. And what is stipple? Somebody look it up for me, please, and leave the definition in the comment section. But stipple is what you're hearing when you roll. That's causing stipple. It's the action of the roller applying the paint and rolling off of the wall. It creates a little texture. A little bit. Rollers create a little texture. Certainly different than a paintbrush. Now, see, this is why it gets involved. You gotta move your ladder, and you have to keep your paint tray strategically placed. It can't be on top of you because look at the length of this hole. This is a 16-foot hole, collapsed, of course. Okay, so everything is cut, meaning the brush did its work all around the trim, etc. So now I'm just making my vertical columns, okay? The trim against which I'm rolling right now will be getting painted. So if I hit it, don't be alarmed. I'm talking about the top of the pony wall. And so now I'm making my columns just the way you know how to do it. And all the paint is wet. Now, we're going to start going down the drop wall. And so now, I want to come close and see how much paint I can comfortably get from this landing. And you can see I'm getting about 8 feet from the top. Now again, this molding is going to get painted. So if you see me get paint on it, don't worry. Okay, so now I'm going to lay it out, my final stroke. Okay, your final stroke is always, I like to go up, then I come down. But that's where you leave it. You leave it going down. Overlap 50%. You see what I mean? What I'm rolling over right now has already been covered, at least the first half. Now I'm going over the third. So this is 3 columns. Okay, now, here's the whole secret to this. I have to go down that staircase with another paint roller so that my columns can remain wet. So, we got to move quickly and strategically, right? And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to get a shorter extension. By the way, if you got a bad bag, you can always drop something, catch it with your boot. This way, you don't damage the tool or the floor. Okay, I'll see you on the next frame. You can start her up. Okay, so now here's another suggestion. You have a paint tray down here. You have another tray so you're not carrying one down. You want to get this done quickly. Now, here's the important part. Do I overlap what I do? Yes, you're going to overlap it. Okay, and if it's all wet, all is forgiven. You just go right over it. Not too far, but you go right over it. I went over it about 4 to 6 inches. I rolled it up. And then here's how I'm doing it. It's like a plane landing. You don't want to start it like this. No, that's amateur. You want to start it, as you're pulling down, you gradually come into it. Gradually come into it. And just hit it and pull it down. Because you don't want any marks there. Okay, the rest is easy, right? We're just going to continue this. Have yourself a 4 to 6 foot collapsible pole so that you can collapse it and make it shorter when you need it shorter. In fact, I'm going to get rid of it because I can do the rest with just my paint roller cage. So now if you never did this before, you would have another painter down here doing what I'm doing. Okay? Okay, my final stroke. I roll up, then I come down. Roll up, then I come down. And if you're not noticing, I'm actually lifting the roller off of the wall when I come up. You know, like when you throw a ball in the air, eventually at some point it starts coming back down. So I just take it up and just gradually bring it down. Very good. Okay, I'm going to continue in the same fashion you just saw me paint. We'll do another section so that you get it down pat what you got to do. I'm coming back up. I'll see you on the next frame. Okay, so within a minute, ideally, you come up the stairs if you're alone, or you continue painting, keeping the wet edge. You see the paint is wet there. So in order to avoid lap marks, we're going to go right up against that wet edge. You see? And we're just going to continue it. That's all. Don't get sloppy and try to stretch your paint. Don't get sloppy. So now I'll finish it off with a steady stroke going down. Okay. Down. And down. Okay, in fact, I'll give it another column or two. I'm not a right-handed person, but now I'm going to be using my weak side. By the way, I have Spencer Colgan painting trivia. And if you are a veteran TV watcher, you might remember the Honeymooners. And eventually they came out with Honeymooners trivia. I was a Honeymooners aficionado when there was only TV. So, here we go. We're finishing it up, just like I did the first 3 columns. I can do this because I know I gotta work quickly, but work with as few columns as you have to in order to get this done right. I'm gonna go downstairs. I'll rejoin you when I use the long pole to work directly over the staircase. Okay, see you on the next frame. Okay, remember, within the minute, you're coming back down and you're simply extending your columns. Putting that paint on generously. Okay, and now, we're almost there. We're going to start using the long painting tool. I'm just going to hit my molding for the sake of expediting the video. I'm painting this anyway. Notice how I'm changing the direction of the roller to make it parallel with this 45-degree angled trim. I'm not doing this. That's not going to be good. You're going to see that. I'm turning it with the angle of the trim. Remember, paint becomes a solid. And if you think you can roll a solid on with different strokes going this way or that way, yeah, it's wet, but it dries a solid. And you will see it. Because everything you roll on solid has angles, and the angles receive light and reflect it differently. That's what holidays are all about. You know, holidays are shadows on the wall, or marks, flashing that happens because you didn't prime properly or you didn't roll, what I call universally, applying the paint universally. Okay, we're going to go to the long pole, we're going to finish this wall, and we're going to finish the video. So now, we got our scaffolding out of the way, right? And we got to work quickly. So now, all I got to do is 1, 2, 3 or 4 columns, and this wall was done properly, keeping the wet edge. But you're going to need a long extension pole. This is 16 feet. And they're not cheap, of course. Again, the roller tray can't be that close to you. So you could just video from behind me as I come over there. Now, if you want to keep your roller from dripping, keep turning it as you walk toward the wall. You will prevent gravity from taxing one of the sides of the roller as you go. Obviously, if I stand here like this, eventually something's going to drip. But if I keep turning it, I will use gravity to my advantage, right? Okay. I'm standing 3 or 4 steps down. I extend my pole. Here we go. And this is the hard part, folks. Because you really don't have control over that roller right now as much as you do every other time. You will over-exaggerate your movements. Like right now, I push it upward. I'm almost hitting the crown. I'm going too fast. You lose control because you use a disproportionate amount of physical force because you're not used to this distance. You know, like when you're backing up and the camera in your vehicle shows that you're far away, but in reality, you're really close. If anybody trails anything on his truck, you know what I'm talking about. So, crown molding appears to be further away than it really is when you're doing this. So just nice and easy. Now let's talk about keeping the roller against the wall properly. There's a tendency that your muscles fatigue and you don't keep the roller at the right angle. So you want to keep it 180 degrees with the wall. What do I mean by that? It's flush up against the wall. But if you get a little fatigued, you may not see it because it's so far away. Your roller comes off the wall, and then this is how you roll it. Can you just show them my hand? Instead of your roller being like this on the wall, because of your fatigue, it's like this, and you're only rolling the edge. Be aware of that. Okay. Again, it's a wet edge. I'm good. Nice. Don't be tempted to not dip back into the roller. You might say, oh, I don't want to keep walking up and down those steps. Don't do that. I used to know a guy way back when. Everything in his life was, looks good enough, looks good enough. Everything. Even in his own house, looks good enough. Don't be tempted to start there. No, remember, this is wet. You want to, thunder and lightning. You want to keep it going. Nice. Straight. Okay, let's. Okay, let's come back up. Wet our roller again. Let's talk about drop cloths on the stairwell. Staircases are the most common, and rooftops, the most common areas where painters and workers get injured. Don't use a cotton drop cloth in a stairwell. I have taped down paper, but even with that, you lose perspective on where the edge of the step is, and you could trip by tricking yourself. So I suggest that you get drop cloths with rubber on the bottom. They actually have rubber, a layer of rubber on the bottom of the drop cloth so that it doesn't slide. And it's most advisable in a staircase. Spencer, why did you start over there instead of here? Personal preference. Okay. Let's finish that column up again. Boom, 1. 2. Okay. 3. let's get rid of this monster of a hole. That is how you paint a drop wall in a staircase. Any questions? Let me know. Tell me how you do it. Tell me how you do it. A lot of people do it wrong. This is not in a textbook. This is simply the application of common knowledge that you get when you're painting because of the issue with paint drying and getting it done quickly. So with those two pieces of information, considering those two, this is the only way to do it. Can you just show them now the wall, the entire wall? It's all light blue. And if you look to the left of your camera, you're seeing that it's slightly drying, which is perfectly normal. This is where we began. But you don't see any heavy blotches because we did it methodically from A on the left to Z on the right. And that's how you do it, folks. Any questions, please comment. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching my channel. I'll see you on the next video.